What if the secret to unlocking your health and vitality isn't found in the latest pill, but in the food you eat and the lifestyle you lead? Join me, Dr. Suresh Khirwadkar, a board certified lifestyle physician with over 20 years in the medical field, as we challenge the conventional approach to health and dive into the transformative power of nutrition. In today's episode, we'll explore how healing through diet, especially the carnivore diet, one of my favorite diets, can help you take control of your health, reduce dependency on medication, and optimize your wellness. It's time to stop relying on doctors and start empowering yourself to prevent and treat chronic diseases. Let's get started. Welcome, Dr. Suresh. How are you?
Thank you, ma'am. I'm very good today. Thank you. How are you today?
Great. I'm in Texas right now. Where are you located?
Australia. So it's about 9:30 in the morning here. What time is it over there with you?
It is 5:40 p.m. So it's 9:30 a.m. for you, right?
AM. Yeah. It's always challenging with the time zones. It's always challenging.
Okay. So you said I could go anywhere I want with this discussion. And we might have some
Sure.
differences. I hope you don't mind when I voice my
No.
opinions and things like
No,
that.
of course.
But I am a big fan of the carnivore diet. And the reason being is because I healed myself of hypothyroidism. And one of the first tools that I used, because it was available to me, and I already knew many people who had healed themselves of various autoimmune issues
Mm.
from including hypothyroidism. So one of the very first things that I knew to turn to was the carnivore diet. So one of the first questions that I think we're probably going to disagree on, but it's okay. I just want to hear your theories. Is what is the optimal human diet?
Wow, I think that is a very good question to start with. We're straight into it. So, I think you just made a really good point there first, though, that you essentially kind of cured yourself of hypothyroidism. Which, if I go back, 20 years to medical school, and even really beyond, up until about 2 years ago, this was to me as a doctor, as a GP. So I'm a certified lifestyle physician, but also a GP, a general practitioner, family doctor. And so things like hypothyroidism is bread and butter, for me. Um, I was always taught, and it was always known to be incurable. And yet, you have obviously helped yourself. You've kind of cured it. And I've seen patients curing it with the carnivore diet.
Wait,
And
I
also,
never knew this. Hold on a second. According to modern medicine, hypothyroidism is considered incurable.
yeah, basically,
What does
it's
that
just
mean exactly? That you will
it just
always
means that
have
there's,
it, and
yeah, yeah,
anything that they
basically.
do is only to help manage symptoms?
Yeah, essentially.
Okay.
That hypothyroidism is autoimmune. Nothing you can do about it, really. We don't know why people get it. Probably genetic, and therefore just take medications, take the thyroxine replacement, and off you go. And we'll just monitor your blood tests and dose accordingly. And that's fine. And that's fine. And that treats the symptoms, and it helps people. Of course, hypothyroidism untreated is a potentially dangerous condition and can lead to congenital hypothyroidism can lead to cretinism, which, makes you infertile, for example. So it's a very serious condition if left untreated. But essentially in medicine, it's one of those kind of just incurable conditions. And the idea that you can potentially cure it through simple dietary change is just unbelievable to people. And this was unbelievable to me 2 years ago. If you'd have told me that, I probably would have laughed you out of the room, quite honestly. And I would have said you're
How many years
crazy.
ago was that?
Probably 2 years
2 years ago, barely.
before I
Wow.
started my carnivore journey. So up until that point, 18 years of from starting medical school and onwards, I was just under that paradigm that no, this was just genetic, it's autoimmune, there's nothing you can do about it. But this is the thing with the carnivore diet and similar offshoots of the carnivore diet, and the principles is we're seeing so much healing and curing essentially what is essentially uncurable conditions. We're finding benefit, at least, and for some people, curing them. So, in terms of what is the optimum human diet, because of course that was your question, we got off on a slight tangent. But I think if you can cure incurable conditions, well, you're certainly onto something there. As far as this is probably going to be something along those lines towards an optimal human diet. For me, I think the most obvious thing, because there's all research, but the research is mostly not very good. It's mostly garbage. It's mostly epidemiological studies. As far as nutritional research is concerned, it's so bad. In humans, we have almost no randomized control trials as far as nutrition is concerned, because you have to take a group of people. You can't just do one person, of course. Enough people to make it a big enough study to give it enough power so it's actually worthwhile doing and can give you the significant results. And then really just change one single variable in what they're eating and then see what happens down the line. You can't just do it for a few weeks. You have to do it for a long period of time, which is basically impossible. The only way you can do that is by taking identical twins, essentially separating them at birth, growing them in a lab, and then just changing one thing in their diet, which of course we can't do and is totally unethical, of course. In animals, we can do this. And animals have great nutritional research, really good nutritional research. But in humans, we have almost nothing that's actually worthwhile. And so when you look at the evidence and the research, a lot of the research and evidence is mostly just garbage. It's really not very good. So for me, I think then if you can't really rely on the research, you need to think about what is a logical human diet first. Let's go back to that. So if you can't apply the evidence, apply the logic. And if you went right now out into the forest, out into the woods somewhere, what would you find to eat? Because that is a human diet. We are animals on this planet. We're not living in some, faraway distant planet or something. We're living on this planet. And we would naturally eat what is available to us. So take away the supermarkets, take away the fast food, your Uber Eats and your DoorDash and all those things. Take those away. What are you left with? If you had to go outside and find your food, what would you find? Well, if I went right now into the rainforest, it's summer here in Australia. There is a little bit of fruit growing on the trees, but not a lot. There's no vegetables to find out in the wild. There's no salads. There's probably some mushrooms. It's been raining a lot recently. There's going to be some mushrooms. I've got some in my grass at the moment and the garden. And there's meat. And so what is a natural human diet? It's probably going to be what we can actually find out in the wild. That's just simple logic, makes sense. And what we find is, for the most part throughout the year, really just meat. Maybe some eggs, birds' eggs, things like that. But it's mainly going to be meat. You're not going to find, of course, fast food and takeaways. You're not going to find bread. You're not going to find pasta, wheat, things like corn. Nobody eats just corn, like just, eating it from the plant. And there's no fields of corn. There's none of these fields of strawberries or potato fields or rice paddies, anything like that for millions of years, up until about 10 to 15,000 years ago with the agricultural revolution. Since then, we've been eating bread, pasta, all these kinds of things. But prior to that, there was no refrigeration, there was no agriculture, there was no farming of any kind, really. And so it was what you found to hunt. And the hunter-gatherer, this is what humans have been, absolutely. But what was there to actually gather? And how much would it have been available to us? So things like nuts, seeds, yes, they would have been available, but how much and when? And in what quantities? Enough to feed a tribe of people? No, they really wouldn't have been. It was
enough to be a
basically
vegan? Or, no.
no. Well, this is the thing. It's a good question. The vegan diet is a totally unnatural human diet, because if you just look at vitamin B12, you really can't get it at all on a vegan diet, apart from tablets and one species of algae in the middle of the ocean somewhere, which of course nobody was ever eating. And so basically B12 doesn't really exist at all in the plant kingdom. So without B12, we die. It's quite simple. We die a horrible, painful neurological death. And our spinal cord degenerates and all sorts of horrible things happen. So by definition, a vegan diet is not a natural human diet by any stretch of the imagination, because without those pills, you simply just die.
Yeah, absolutely. I I had a naturopath in California, and he told me that basically veganism is a human experiment in our modern days, and that there's only one tribe or one people group that he knew of that was truly vegan and that had been for quite some time. It was I suppose a people group in India who were vegan, I guess, for religious reasons. But he said, but they were not truly vegan because they grew their own vegetables, and therefore they received B12 through the feces and the dead, bugs and things that were on their vegetables that they would harvest, and they wouldn't wash their vegetables. They would just, kind of pick and eat. And so they were getting animal products, even though not maybe willingly or willfully or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, without B12, we die. It's very simple. I don't think you would get anywhere near any really enough B12 doing that. And really the only there's just no way a vegan diet is a natural human diet. And so we come back to basically predominantly meat, and realistically maybe 90-95% meat. And this fits with, there's research looking at things like stable isotope nitrogen studies, which show that humans, for the most part, have eaten at least a 70% meat diet. And we know that from stable isotope nitrogen studies. So there is some evidence of what we have eaten historically. But yes, of course, there's also some evidence that we occasionally would have eaten some vegetables and these things. But how often would we have eaten them, really? Not very often. Seasonally at most. Of course, there was no refrigeration, no shipping, and all of these things around the world. It was what was available. And I mean, I don't know about you. I don't know the last time I saw a vegetable in the wild. I probably wouldn't even
a vegetable in the wild. Well, there's lots of plants in the wild.
There are, but they're virtually all completely toxic to humans and will pretty much instantly kill you.
Right.
There's 90% of the world's plants are poisonous to humans. We only can eat about 10%. And of that 10%, the majority are going to be poison if you eat enough of them. Almonds are a very good example here. A kilogram of almonds is technically contains enough cyanide technically to kill an adult human. A kilogram of almonds, yet they sell it in the health food aisle. And realistically, no one's going to eat a kilo of almonds. And it would probably actually take 2 kilos, really. A kilo could kill a child. But nobody's going to eat that now. But if we're thinking, well, people gathered nuts and seeds and these kinds of things, but these are full of toxins. And to get enough energy from those nuts and seeds, you probably would end up killing yourself because of the toxins in the food.
Right. And, the fact that a lot of our pharmaceutical medicines are derived from plant substances, I believe that's really the reason for them on Earth is for our healing, not for our everyday sustenance. And I think we have more than logic and scientific studies to back up a lot of things that you're saying. I always like to relay the story of Dr. Weston A. Price. Have you heard of Dr. Weston A. Price? So he traveled all around the world studying different people groups, and he found that they had perfect health. They did not have the diseases that we have today, heart disease, diabetes, cancer. They had perfect dental health because he was a dentist also, and they didn't brush their teeth, and their women were fertile at the same age that our women in the modern world would have already reached menopause. And the men were also strong and they were hunters. And just as you said, their primary source of diet was the meat that they hunted. And they would forage once in a while, eat honey and berries and vegetables as they found it. But it was more of a like a condiment almost, or something like that, a treat, not something that would sustain them day to day. And it's more than just Dr. Weston A. Price. A lot of people who have gone out to study native tribes, they will verify that this is exactly how they eat. Without modern technology, this is how people eat. So I think the biggest question, for a lot of people is, I believe that the carnivore diet does indeed help heal a lot of issues. But I think the question really that I have the most time, the hardest time answering is why? Why does it help people heal?
Yeah.
Because of course we don't have a lot of scientific studies on that.
Exactly.
So what are your theories?
And I think there's a number of ways it does help people. I think these are really important questions because nobody wants an echo chamber. Nobody wants to just be told carnivore diet's great and you must do it and they're questioning why, and you just say, yeah, but just do it, it's fine. There's a few ways that I think it helps people. So number one, we know it's a very low carbohydrate diet. Really by definition, it's a pretty much a ketogenic diet. Now, low carbohydrate diets and ketogenic diets have been studied a lot, and they have been almost completely universally to be showing benefits in people's health. Improved cognition, improved health, improved body composition, improved energy levels, reduction in cardiovascular disease, reduction in mental health problems, reduction in, dementia rates, improving, cognition with people with dementia, all of these things. So that's number one. It's a very low carbohydrate, essentially ketogenic diet. Number two is removing the plant toxins. And this is, I think, the biggest thing of the carnivore diet. And this takes people a while to kind of wrap their head around, this idea that the plants might not actually be good for them. Because we're told all the time to eat these foods. The government advice across the world is eat plants, eat vegetables, eat fruits, eat rice, eat complex carbohydrates, starchy grains, eat the brown bread, not the white bread, because it's got more of the grain, the whole grain, etc. Eat more fiber, all of these things. So it's hard for people to wrap their head around this idea that what they sell in the supermarket might not be good for them. But we know supermarkets and chains and so on, they're really just after profits at the end of the day. And it just means it's legal for them to sell it. They sell cigarettes, they sell alcohol, some countries, they sell guns and drugs and, all sorts of things in supermarkets. It just means it's legal. It doesn't mean it's necessarily good for you. And we know that, as I said, only 10% of the world's plants are edible, and we eat less than 1% of the world's vegetation. So this idea that plants are potentially toxic, we know this is true. You can't just go outside and eat whatever you feel like from the ground, because you'll probably just get sick and die. But it's hard still for people to wrap their head around this. But these plant toxins are poisons, basically. This is how plants defend themselves, because they don't have kinetic defense. They have chemical defenses, because no living thing on the planet wants to die. It's a simple fact of life. They all want to live. They all want to survive. They all want to reproduce. That's the biological kind of point of life. And so they don't have kinetic defense like you or I. If somebody tried to come and eat us, we would run away. But plants can't do that. So they have to have these chemical defenses, essentially, to say, if you eat me, you will get sick and there will be a problem. So most animals know this. They only eat their specific thing that they eat, because they've evolved in this kind of evolutionary arms race, so to speak, between animals and plants, attack and defense and so on. So things like koalas, they eat pretty much just one thing. For example, the cows eat one type of grass, horses eat a different type of grass, etc. They'll very rarely be next to each other in a field, for example. They'll be at different places. Human beings are the only animals on the planet that don't know what to eat, which is hilarious. We're the most intelligent, yet we're also just the most stupid at the same time. So taking out the plant toxins, this is a really, really big part of the carnivore diet. And I think this is why we see so much healing from the carnivore diet versus just, say, ketogenic diet. Because keto, people are often, and when I did keto, I was still just pounding spinach and, all of these vegetables, thinking that this was good for me. But it's only when I took all those things out that I found, my pain just went away. My health just massively improved. So those plant toxins are just a whole nother level. And then there's, of course, just the wider aspects of the carnivore diet. People that are following this, they do tend to also fall into that kind of ideal of taking out other toxins from their life. They start to they call it meat brain or beef brain. Basically, just they start to think about other things in their life. And the messaging around the carnivore diet is also just how to reduce other toxins in your life, from your food, and also just environment. So they tend to move away from things like non-stick coatings, plastic bowls and Tupperware, using stainless steel, using cast iron pans and things, again, that are non-toxic. Reducing obviously other toxins in the food, getting rid of all the junk food, etc. So a criticism of the carnivore diet is, well, you could just do that on any diet, because you could, absolutely, and you will improve your health. There's really no doubt. But you're unlikely to get the benefits of things like, hypothyroidism going away. I've never met a patient who has cured hypothyroidism on a vegan diet, for example. And they'll lose weight, they might improve their health, but that's coming from a standard, pretty terrible diet. And the difference between vegan and carnivore is very often people, when they go vegan to carnivore, and it's often a long transition, they just find so much benefits. And the internet's just littered with examples of this, of people going from vegan to carnivore and just finding massive improvements. So I think there's a number of ways, but the plant toxins is a really key area for sure.
Okay, now there's a lot of questions that I have now that I would love to get your thoughts on. What you've kind of answered one of them is what do you think are the key differences between keto and carnivore? Well, I mean, everyone knows, that carnivores primarily meat eating, and keto has a lot to do with fats, good fats, but still a lot of plants. In the keto movement doesn't really teach about the plant toxins. But what about perhaps, let's say, for example, like a modified version of keto that would be kind of like a half keto, half carnivore in theory? What would you think about something like that? And when would, if or when would be maybe the best application for something like that?
I think it depends where you're coming from, and this is what I talk to my patients about: is the why. Is why are you doing the carnivore diet? Why do you want to do the carnivore diet? Because if you want to just lose weight, for example, you can do that on any diet. I mean, you could lose weight just eating cardboard. It doesn't mean it's good for you, but you still lose weight. And for the weight loss, keto's fine, and keto's great. Carnivore really is about the healing, and it's about taking out those plant toxins. So carnivore, I think, is a spectrum, and this confuses people because some of the messaging online, and I'm not agreeable to this messaging, but some of the messaging is, it's just meat, 100% meat, nothing else ever, and that's it. Maybe meat and eggs, and that's it, nothing else. I personally don't follow that approach. I follow a slightly different approach in that if we go back to a hyper carnivore diet, as defined, is 70% plus meat or animal sources, which allows 30%, of course, for anything else. Now, for a lot of people, that 30% is probably not going to cause them any massive dramas as long as they are pretty healthy in and of themselves. They don't have those autoimmune problems, they don't have arthritis, they don't have skin problems, etc. And they're also eating things which don't upset their body, because that's, of course, the other part. The more kind of extreme end, I suppose, if you could call it that, of the carnivore diet in terms of getting towards that more 100% meat, that's more, I think, for most people about the healing and things like the hypothyroidism, for example. It's really that elimination diet, is taking those things out to get to a point where you've healed. And then maybe if people want to add some things back in, no massive dramas, as long as they stay healthy and they're not kidding themselves and getting gut problems or skin issues, joint pains, etc., and then just ignoring it and saying, but I want to eat vegetables. And if people want to do that, look, that's their choice, of course. But I think if people are generally healthy, they don't have those health problems, a somewhere between keto and carnivore diet, like a 80-90% meat diet with a little bit of vegetables here and there, is probably not going to kill anyone. It's going to be fine for a lot of people. But some people really do need to go to that length to just take them all out to see those benefits. But then maybe in time they could just bring a little bit back in if they really truly wanted to. A lot of people don't want to because they just feel like, well, I feel great without them. All my problems have gone away. Why would I bring them back in? But some people do choose to bring them back in, and that's perfectly fine as long as it doesn't cause them any issues.
Also, I think that carnivore compared to keto diet is more sustainable for the long term. Um,
I think it is for some people because I think the big difference between keto and carnivore that I see as a doctor is keto is great for what it helps with, but the carnivore diet is just a whole nother level. And it's very simple for people, which is a huge deal because a lot of people are just really burnt out from diet culture. They're burnt out from trying everything. They're burnt out from meal plans and calorie counting and, all these things. And they're still often left confused and they don't necessarily resolve their issues. And so then they start thinking, well, I'm doing this diet, which everyone says is bad for me, like say keto, but I'm not getting any better. So why would I stay doing it? Whereas the carnivore diet, the difference there is people find the healing, they do notice the benefits, and keto look can benefit as well, but just not quite as much. But then also the simplicity. And calories do matter, of course, but they matter a lot less, I think, on a carnivore diet. And this is just what we see repeatedly with people. Calories matter less, meal plans matter less, and it's just that simplicity of eating, which makes it so much more sustainable for people, I think. Hmm.
Um, how can you talk about now some of the common myths that people believe about the carnivore diet? You know, why so many people think that it's unhealthy, and what is your rebuttal for those things?
Absolutely. Very good question. Um, I mean, the first myth perhaps we've already covered, and that's that it's just has to be 100% meat all the time. And it really truly doesn't. And it does depend on where you're coming from, but we've already covered that. Probably the biggest myth is the saturated fat and the animal fats and cholesterol. You know, we can't talk about this without, of course, cholesterol and saturated fat. So up until about the early 1900s, I think it is, we were never eating seed oils. Margarine didn't exist. These kinds of things. The only thing we were eating, as far as fat was concerned, was animal fats because that's the only thing that existed on the planet. And yes, things like avocados, they've got non-animal fats, of course, monounsaturated, a bit of polys. But these are a whole unadulterated, olives and avocados, nuts, of course. These are whole unadulterated, fats that haven't gone through processes of chemical washing and bleaching and deodorizing and high pressure extraction and heat and all of these things, which is going to enormously change the structure of these fats that we're eating now in things like seed oils. So, really, up until about the 1900s, and everything since the dawn of time prior to that, of course, was animal fats. Every animal on the planet that is a predator eats these fats, and they're all perfectly fine. They're not all dying of heart attacks 24/7. Why are humans any different? We're not that different from anything else. So up until about the early 1900s, we were just eating tons of animal fat, basically, because there was no other real food to eat. Otherwise, it was meat and maybe a tiny bit of veg. That was it. No refrigeration, no shipping, any of these things. And then early in the 1900s, 1950, 1960, something like that, I think President Eisenhower had a heart attack. Forgive me if I get it all slightly wrong. And then, of course, it was, oh my gosh, heart attack. It's killing everybody. It was an epidemic. And it was something like 0.5% of the population had heart attacks. It was like almost nothing. And now it's the biggest killer in the world. Yet it was, oh, it's an epidemic. We must treat this immediately. And nobody knew what caused it. Nobody knew what caused it. And for some reason, some bright people thought maybe it's cholesterol. Maybe it's fat because cholesterol was known to be associated. And N steps then Ansel Keys, this physiologist, who basically started pushing this diet heart hypothesis that cholesterol is bad, fat's bad, cholesterol's bad, etc. And it's been honed down and refined essentially to where we are now, which is that LDL cholesterol is the bad cholesterol, and that saturated fat is bad because it raises your LDL cholesterol. Yet what they don't tell you is that LDL cholesterol has never been shown to cause heart disease. They like to tell you that it does when you look at the totality of the evidence. But as I said earlier, most of the evidence in these things is total garbage. And there's very few to no real interventional studies done. So I think Paul Saladino says it in a good way. We tend to zoom out and look at the whole evidence. And there's so much evidence saying that cholesterol is bad. Yet, when you actually zoom into those studies, they're mostly all completely rubbish and they're just garbage. But if you've got a million tons of garbage, if you zoom out, it all looks right. But if you actually zoom in, you see it's a million tons of garbage, basically.
Same thing with the epidemiological studies.
Yeah,
they don't
exactly.
they zoom out and then they make interesting conclusions, weird conclusions. When you zoom in, it's like, does it really say that? When you examine
Absolutely right.
even the
Absolutely right.
so I feel like it's not really that epidemiology is not valuable. I think that it's the same with all other research. It's more about what conclusions are you drawing, and
Yeah.
based on what factors, and what are you
Based on what?
ignoring?
That's it. And epidemiological studies are very prone to bias. And so you have to account for that. And very often they don't accurately, really reliably account for that. So this idea that cholesterol, causes heart disease, it's never been shown to. But in fact, animal fats, saturated fats, they tell us all the time to eat monounsaturated fats. These are really good for us. But what they don't tell you is that beef, for example, beef brisket has up to almost 70% monounsaturated fat. Yet they don't tell you that. They don't tell you that actually one of the biggest sources of monounsaturated fats is actually animal fats. They don't tell you that. They just say they're really bad. Saturated fat's bad and so on. What they also don't tell you is that saturated fat on the whole typically improves your cholesterol profile, because cholesterol is associated with heart disease, but that association really comes down to what we call small, dense LDL, this kind of damaged LDL particles, not LDL itself, but when it becomes oxidized or glycated, then it becomes harmful. And saturated fat tends to improve that small, dense LDL, not worsen. So yes, your total cholesterol might go up, but is that a bad thing? Well, actually, if your small, dense LDL typically is going down, you're improving a lot of metabolic health markers. Why is it bad that cholesterol just goes up? And in fact, there are studies, again, look, these are epidemiological studies, so they're not perfect by any means. But there is some evidence suggesting that higher cholesterol, so 75 plus, if you're old, over 75, higher cholesterol has been shown to be associated with living longer, healthier lives. 65 plus, many studies showing a reduced risk of pneumonia, for example, which in that age group is a big problem. It can kill people. And yet we're just told all the time, well, cholesterol's the problem here. So that's probably one of the biggest myths, I think. Another myth is that you can't get everything from meat and nutritionally, and you pretty much can. I mean, some slight caveats, because now our soil is, especially here in Australia, I supplement boron, for example, because it's very depleted here in Australia in the soil. And the only way you can get that is eating a ton of fruit. And I don't want to eat a ton of fruit. I've done that, maybe very fat. Uh, so I supplement that. But for the most part, you can get absolutely everything that you need from an animal source. You don't actually need vegetables for any kind of nutrition, really. And then probably the other biggest myth is fiber, and that fiber is really important for humans. Up until about, again, 50 to maybe 75 years ago, nobody cared about fiber. Fiber wasn't even on anyone's radar because everyone was eating fat and everybody was going to the toilet normally. Yet when they started reducing fat, going to low fat diets, then people started getting problems with constipation and gut health, and then we need fiber. But fiber is very interesting because if you look at studies, a lot of studies just show almost universal problems with fiber. And the more fiber people eat, the more gut problems they actually tend to get. And there is a difference there, though, between soluble and insoluble. But for the most part, you just have to look at people when they reduce their fiber, very often a lot of gut problems completely go away. Completely go away. It's remarkable.
Absolutely. So could you compare, let's say, statins versus the carnivore diet?
Well,
Side by side
question.
comparison.
Well, look, there's no research, of course, that's been done comparing
How
statins
about
and
in
the
your
carnivore diet.
experience,
But my
personal experience?
experience, the question here is, what are we trying to treat? That's the question. If we're simply trying to treat cholesterol, statins win hand down, because carnivore diet typically increases cholesterol and statins reduce cholesterol. So if all you're wanting to do is lower cholesterol, statins, of course, they win. That's what they're kind of designed to do. But the question is, do we want to reduce cholesterol? As I've mentioned, there's a lot of potential benefits in higher cholesterol. And so do we want to reduce the small dense LDL? Yes, we do. And statins can reduce that, but also so can the carnivore diet, at least for most people. Ketogenic diets and so on can also do this as well. And statins also have problems. They have a lot of side effects, and they are officially one of the most tolerated medications on the market. Unofficially, as in what we actually see, they're probably one of the worst tolerated. And this goes back to basically fudging the research. If you're not sure, if your listeners are not sure, very quickly, they, for the most part, the studies that they pull this data from, basically pretty much just took out anyone who had side effects of the statins and then said, everyone that's left, how many of you got side effects? None. Oh, great. It's really well tolerated. It's just like, how is that even ethical? And, that's basically the two big studies. One of them completely excluded people who had side effects. And then the other ones, they did a run in about 6 weeks. Anyone that got side, or maybe 6 months, 6 weeks to six, I can't remember exactly. Anyone that got side effects, they took them out and then said, everybody else, did you get side effects? No, great. It's really well tolerated. It's just total garbage research. So if you're trying to treat cholesterol, yeah, statins win hand down. If you're trying to treat heart disease, which should be what we're trying to treat, of course, there's a different story. So statins can help to prevent heart attacks by reducing the risk of rupture of soft plaque. So they help to convert soft plaque into hard plaque. So they can reduce the risk of heart attacks for some people. But again, that's not the same as simply just reducing cholesterol. But that's become the endpoint for a long time. We've forgotten about heart disease. It's now the endpoint is just cholesterol, which is just crazy. The endpoint is heart disease and ultimately death. Statins have a lot of side effects. They increase the risk of type 2 diabetes quite dramatically, actually. And they also have very little, on average, benefit. So on average, for somebody who is not had a heart attack before, it's what we call primary prevention, the average improvement in life expectancy from taking a statin is around about 3 to 7 days. Not a lot. Not a lot. And they have all those side effects, and they're messing with the body, and they're messing with cholesterol, and they reduce coenzyme Q10, which is one of our most powerful antioxidants in our body. And of course, antioxidants are very important, by about 90%, the intracellular coenzyme Q10. That's huge. To reduce that is massive. And so as far as, statins versus carnivore diet, I know what I would do, and that's personally not statins.
So if someone is on statins, what you're basically
Yep.
saying is that statins basically will only buy you 7 days of life, maybe because it also
On
might
average.
give you diabetes. So let's say someone wants to get off statins. Would you recommend that they do that? Do most people, let me rephrase it this way. Do most people that work with you, do they get off statins cold turkey, or is it more of a gradual approach? And if it is gradual, over the course of how long?
Yeah, good question. Let me answer that in a slightly different way. So basically, most of the people that I see are, carnivore, keto. They're within the space of they want to stop the statin anyway. So they either have stopped it already because they've done their own research, they refuse to take it, or they want to come off it. So if they want to come off it, and I'm agreeable to that, and I'll explain what I mean by that in a moment, then you don't necessarily need to reduce them down. You can pretty much just stop them cold turkey. You're not really going to rebound them in any significant way that's detrimental to your health. Yes, your cholesterol is going to go up. That's because you've lost the effect of the statin. Some people, like I do prescribe statins for some people. And for some people, they leave disappointed because they come to me expecting me to stop the statin. And I say, actually, no, you might benefit from this. But those are very few and far between. And what I'm treating there is the patient, of course, and trying to do what I think is right for them. But also I'm treating the heart disease. I'm not treating the cholesterol. I'm treating the heart disease. And what I say to people is you can either be healthy or you can take a statin. You can do both if you really want to. And some people do, but most people don't. But if you're not going to be healthy, you probably do benefit from the statin. If you are healthy, you really probably don't actually benefit from the statin. And when I say healthy, I mean, you've never had a heart attack, you've got a low soft plaque, burden, a low calcium score, for example, your small dense LDL is very low, you're metabolically extremely healthy, and you're looking after yourself, these people most likely don't benefit a great deal from statins, if at all. But some people, they are terribly unhealthy, high blood pressure, they've got, terrible diabetes already, their small dense LDL's through the roof, and they're really just never really going to actually look after themselves. For those people, or they've already had multiple heart attacks, for example, for those people, actually a statin probably is going to be of benefit to them. So I'll tell them, look, actually, I think you'd be better off on the statin. Now, if they're in that camp, but they want to get better, yeah, great. I'll work with them, of course. And slowly over time, we'll maybe reduce it down. But for most people, it's either just be healthy or be on the statin. That's usually what it boils down to.
That's very clear. Thank you. Okay, so what is your opinion on the over-reliance on doctors and the medical safety net? Yeah, I feel like you kind of touched on that already with what you just said.
Yeah. Yeah, it's terrible. It's truly shocking. I put a video out on my YouTube channel fairly recently, today, in fact, actually saying, it's time to save yourself. Nobody's coming to save you, which is basically all about just stop relying on the system, stop relying on doctors, start relying on yourself, actually make some changes to get healthy. I did an episode about a month ago now as well, titled "The Medical System is Broken," and it is. It's truly broken. And I think there's a few ways that the system is broken. Number one, as doctors, we are not taught really how to actually help people get healthy. We're taught how to prescribe medication safely, and that's fine. But we're not really taught how to actually help people to get better. As I mentioned earlier, 20 odd years of my medical school and postgraduate training was hypothyroidism is incurable. Just here's your prescriptions. Yet we see people curing these illnesses. So that's number one, is the medical system. It just teaches doctors to just prescribe, not necessarily to actually help people fix the underlying problems. Number two is that as part of that system, patients, people, the public have become dependent on doctors and almost, infantilized a little bit, treated like children. And you can't save yourself. No, you need the doctors. You need these pills to be healthy. And the governments, the organizations have successfully, kind of persuaded people that they can't be healthy, that the human condition is just, no, you're born to die. You're born to just be sick. And you must take these pills to counter that, because that's the only way to be healthy. And so people have learned this kind of learned helplessness in a way, that they can't look after themselves, they can't be healthy, and this huge over reliance on doctors and ultimately pharmaceuticals. Of course, the pharmaceutical companies like that, and because of course their profits go sky high. Statins, again, being the very good example. These are a $1 trillion industry with a T, $1 trillion industry around the world. So they just published research that shows that you need these drugs, because why would they ever fund or publish research that shows you don't need these drugs? They're never going to, because then their profits are going to suffer. And so pharmaceutical companies keep sponsoring, pushing that message. Pharmaceutical companies, basically pay for medical school, either directly or indirectly through, again, research grants and so on, because who's funding the research? It's pharmaceutical and food companies, of course. Food companies, again, they're out to make profit. Not necessarily evil, but they're just trying to make profit. You start to wonder, though. But they know that this food is bad for people, but they also know it's addictive, and they'll keep buying it if they keep eating it. So they keep pushing it. And so food companies and drug companies, they're the only ones that sponsor research. And so there's really no research that shows you don't need these drugs. And if you actually just fix your diet, you'll get better. And then you don't really need the doctor anymore. And so I think there's multiple ways that people have just become far too dependent on doctors. And that's not the same as saying never go to your doctor. No. But start to look after yourself, start to just think, how can I be healthy? And that, I think, is really the key thing that people should ultimately be doing. And I always say to people, I would love to be out of a job. I just become a full-time stay-at-home dad. I would love to not have to have patients. And the only doctors you should ever really need are trauma surgeons because you have an accident. That's really the only doctor we should ever actually need. But of course, we're just not in that system.
Awesome. Well, okay, I have two more questions for you. One of them is,
Sure.
I know it's not just nutrition and diet that needs to be changed. What are some other factors, such as perhaps toxic elements within the home, lifestyle, mindset, etc.?
Yeah, pretty straightforward. It's pretty much about five things that people need to do. So, number one is the diet. That is the biggest thing, of course, and we've talked about that, of course, already extensively. Number two is, sleep. Probably not necessarily in this order, but diet is definitely the number one. Number two is, well, let's say exercise. Let's say exercise. When I say exercise, I don't mean just, getting a few steps in here and there. I mean actual planned physical activity. So the difference between physical activity and exercise is essentially the planned component. And look, if you live on a farm and you're outside all the time working and stuff like that's fine. You're basically exercising. But for most of us, we do very little to nothing. And so exercise is really important as well. And half an hour, 2, 3 times a week is more than enough. Honestly, less time than you should spend brushing your teeth, realistically. And then we spoke about teeth earlier. But honestly, like 5 minutes a day is all the exercise you really need to do. As long as you actually are exercising in that 5 minutes and not just, messing around. Number three is probably sleep and actually just getting sleep. So 7 to 9 hours of sleep, good quality sleep. So waking up feeling refreshed. If you're not waking up feeling refreshed, there's a problem with your sleep. And so that needs to then be addressed. We could do a whole episode on sleep. We haven't got time for that today. But one of the biggest issues I see is actually the daytime, not the nighttime. People always think about the nighttime when it's sleep. How can I fix my sleep? Now, what you need to do is actually fix the daytime. Why are you not going to sleep properly in the first place, actually? And that comes on to number four, which is stress. So, stress reduction, huge thing there. And this is a big problem in today's society. We are just so stressed all the time with mortgages and banks and just work, and life is just, it's very stressful for people. So anything that people can do to reduce their stress levels and relax is definitely a good thing. And that improves then on, of course, sleep, exercise, diet. They also improve stress. So it's all interlinked, of course. Number five is probably sunshine, actually. And getting sunlight is really important. Again, like every animal on the planet, we've evolved, grown up in the sun. Yes, don't spend all day sunbathing necessarily, but get outside, get some sunshine as much as your skin can kind of tolerate. Be sensible with it, of course, but sunlight is so powerful for us. It lowers blood pressure, sometimes more than a tablet can lower your blood pressure. It produces endorphins, it lowers our stress levels. The moment you step outside into that sun, it hits your face, you just go, oh, it just feels so good. And yet we're told all the time, especially here in Australia, don't go into the sun, it's going to kill you. Like it's so ridiculous that the sun is going to kill you. Just be sensible with it. And then there's other things just which really come back to just a natural existence and things like earthing or grounding. So getting connection to nature, physical connection to nature. Most people do this through their feet, and walking on grass and things like that, just physically connecting to the planet. This sounds very like, well, a bit woo-woo, but it's been scientifically proven to be very beneficial. So it's definitely not nonsense. And then just things like sitting around a campfire, singing songs, physical contact with people, loved ones, socializing. These are things that we've been doing for millions of years, and yet we just don't do them anymore. And you ask anyone, like sitting around a campfire, like how relaxing is that? It's in our DNA, it's in our evolution, and yet we don't do them anymore. So the more things like this that people can do, and it really just comes back to that natural existence, these are all beneficial for humans, massively beneficial.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. So, I'm a naturopathic herbalist, and one of the things that I help my students to do, because I'm not a medical doctor, is I connect them with holistic professionals such as yourself. There's not enough of us, neither of unlicensed or licensed practitioners that are doing exactly what we're doing.
Mm.
So I wanted to share your website for everyone so they can is this is the best way to connect with you, right? Is through the website.
Yeah, so probably the best way is just through my website. So www.themeatmedic.com. And that's a picture of me there on the front. And obviously, all my socials and stuff are on the website there. I've got my own podcast, YouTube channel. At the Meat Medic is my social media handle, pretty much on all my social medias. And yeah, that people can just drop me a line, get in touch, if they want. Of course, I do offer consultations here in Australia, coaching, internationally, if people are interested in keto carnivore coaching or, just to chat about any of this other type of work that I do.
So how would we get to, let's say, for example, the podcast from the website?
There is a link there somewhere, I think. I don't know where. Maybe it's right at the bottom. But my podcast is available through all audio platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc.
And what's the
Again,
podcast called?
it's called the Meat Medic Podcast.
The Meat Matter. So you can search for that on
Absolutely,
Spotify.
yeah. So
Okay,
if people
great.
just Google or search for the Meat Medic, then you'll find me.
Okay. Okay. And just if I could ask you just one last question,
Sure.
which would be, as you said, medical doctors do not get holistic training, and most of them do not know the kinds of things that we are talking about today. So, how did you kind of break free from that sort of mental prison that a lot of medical professionals are put in? How did you get started on your holistic journey?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's a very good way of putting it. Actually, that mental prison. I might have to use that one. It always comes back to a personal story. It's always a personal thing. Every single doctor that I know that's outside of that kind of mold, that mental prison, so to speak, it's always a personal story. And it's my personal journey was, yeah, basically just 40 years of just obesity, ill health, yo yo dieting, just like everybody, really. And I'm well, conscious of time. I can't go into it. I could spend an hour talking about my journey. But the long and short of it was, sadly, I'd actually given up, really, and because I'd done everything. I'd done low carb, keto, fasting. I'd done vegetarian, just, basically vegan. I lasted, I think, one meal on vegan, but it didn't last very long. And I'd given up. Honestly, it's sad to say, but I'd just completely given up and of trying to be healthy, not trying to help patients, but of me trying to be healthy. I was burnt out. I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't do this constant yo-yo up and down all the time with my health. And so I just resigned myself to being unhealthy, and which is really sad. It makes me quite depressed thinking about that. But I actually went to a conference here in Australia called Low Carb Down Under 2 years ago. And because I was doing low carb work, keto work with people. And I heard Dr. Anthony Chafee talk, and something just kind of resonated with me. And I'd actually heard a patient about a year prior to that who had wanted to do the carnivore diet, who had done it. And I saw great benefits with them. But I was just still stuck in that like mental prison, as you say, just nah, this is just a fluke. You're gonna die, like your cholesterol, all this kind of stuff. And then I heard a doctor talking about it, and I thought, oh, hang on, there's a doctor talking about it here now. Like there must be something in this. Because at this point, I wasn't really even on like YouTube or anything. Of course, actually turns out there's loads of people talking about this stuff, but I didn't really realize it all. And then I thought, I can get behind this. Like I like eating meat, and I'll try it. Like, what's the worst that happens? I'm already basically ill. I'm already unhealthy. I'm heading towards pre-diabetes, morbidly obese. Like, why not just do it and see what happens? Because otherwise, my life is just statins and diabetes and all of these heart attacks and so on. And so I did it. I came home, spoke to my wife, and said, "Look, what do you think about this? Like, I want to get your opinion on this as well, because if it goes wrong, like, this is going to affect you." And she said, "Well, you're basically really fat and unhealthy anyway." Like, she's blunt but loving.
I can't even imagine you fat.
Oh gosh, I was really fat. I was super obese. I was probably approaching 50% body fat at some point, honestly, like shockingly bad. And I think at my heaviest, I was about 108 kilos is the heaviest I ever remember. What's that, about 200 and, I don't know, 50 pounds or something, maybe.
How
Like
tall are you?
that's 5'9". So you can kind of imagine, at the moment now I'm like 70 kilos. So what's that, about 150 pounds, roughly, maybe 160 pounds, maybe. And I don't know what my body fat percentage is now, probably about 20, but I was probably 50% almost at some point. And she just, she said, well, you're really unhealthy anyway. Like, and you look at your dad, look at your mom, heart attacks, diabetes, hypertension, all of these things in your family. Like, what's the worst that happens? Like, you're going to have a heart attack anyway. You might as well just do it. You like eating meat, see if it works. So I did. And that was 2 years ago. And I just saw the immediate change. Immediate. 36 hours, my pain was gone. My arthritis in my hands, just gone. I just felt like absolute Superman. I felt like someone had just lifted this veil off my face, that I've been wearing for 40 odd years. And it was just like, what is this like crazy magic, basically? And that really, and even prior to that, I was doing low carb keto and stuff with patients because I'd seen benefits there and I know the research. But this carnivore was just a whole nother level. And with doctors who are, again, they make that journey, it's always a personal story. Always.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing everything that you do. I always talk about how I don't trust most doctors. You are not a regular doctor. You are
No.
truly a holistic healer. And the word doctor, it comes from it comes from a root word that's supposed to mean to teach, and it's the
Yeah.
same word that we get the word doctrine from, meaning usually referring to a religious teaching. And most doctors aren't teachers of holistic health and healing, but you are different. You are bringing back the true meaning of what it means to be a medical doctor, a true teacher of holistic health and healing. So thank you so much for doing that and everything that you do. And thank you,
Oh, you're very
everyone.
welcome.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for listening to today's enlightening conversation with Dr. Suresh. And if you're ready to rethink your approach to health, check out his website again at themeatmedic.com, also his podcast, and also drsuresh.com also, right? drsuresh.com.
.com.au. That's my Australian
.com.au.
business site. Yeah.
Right. And if you're local, I guess, and for more about his holistic methods and resources. And remember, true health starts with the choices that you make every day. So take control, take action, and become your own best health advocate. Until next time, stay well.
Hi everyone, my name is Ashley Algar and I am the host at Expertise TV, and I'm very excited to be introducing you to our guest today, Mayim Vega. Now, Mayim Vega is a former NASA computer scientist turned holistic healer after facing a very personal health crisis, which the modern medical system could not resolve. In 2009, she founded Arukah.com, which offers an holistic healer certification program focusing on 3 pillars: naturopathic herbalism, holistic life coaching, and online business and marketing to empower people to become holistic healers and achieve maximum impact in the world. Mayim combines her scientific background, natural healing methods, and faith in the creator and great physician to guide others on a path to personal and professional well-being. Mayim, it's clear that you are very passionate about the topic of holistic health and particularly helping people who are wanting to transition into this approach. How did you find yourself in this line of work, and why is this work so important to you?
Thank you, Ashley, for taking the time to speak with me. And I'd love to answer that question. So, the way I found myself in this line of work starts with my story of when I transitioned from becoming a computer scientist at the NASA Ames Research Center to becoming an entrepreneur and building my first online business in digital marketing. And the reason why I did that is so that I could stay at home and be with my newly born son at the time And now I have 7 children of my own, and I always wanted to homeschool them and just be there for them. And so that's why I became an entrepreneur. But my first, my first few years as an entrepreneur was extremely difficult. And I thought it was healthy, but later on, after all my studies, I realized there were a lot of things that I was doing that was not very healthy. They were not very healthy habits that I had. And what ended up happening was I got really sick, and I thought I was on my deathbed. And I was rushed to the emergency room, and the doctor actually thought that I had a brain tumor. But after extensive testing and examination, she told me that there was nothing wrong with me. I just, I was experiencing a lot of pain, but they had nothing for me. There was nothing they could do for me. She said that she could give me some really strong painkillers, but that's really it. She couldn't really get rid of the problem. And so I took the painkillers, but again, painkillers and any pharmaceutical drug never address the root cause of illness and disease. And that's exactly why this line of work is so important to me, and why I went on my own personal journey to become a holistic healer, to study nutrition, herbalism, holistic health, and holistic life coaching, is because we all know people, and maybe probably even ourselves, who, just like me, went to the modern medical system because that's the expected thing to do. That's the normal thing to do. And, tried to get health and healing that way, but hit a dead end, hit a brick wall, and we either got medications that didn't work, or that only worked for a while, or that caused side effects that were so terrible that we had to get on other medications, plural, and maybe even the medication or medications caused side effects that caused other health issues. And sometimes the health issues are worse than the first problem that you originally had. And we're on this ridiculous roller coaster of drug after drug, after treatment, after procedure, because the modern medical system never addresses the root cause. And medical professionals who have woken up know this. And that's why I have medical professionals in my program, including, doctors, nurses, nurse practitioners, medical technicians, etc., who are learning from me, who are, taking the certification program, because they realize that our system is broken and we need to fix it. It is our destiny as humanity to overcome all this nonsense, really. We can do better, and we will do better. I know it. And that's why, in my certification program, sometimes I joke around. No, it's not really a joke, but I say, I'm empowering not just holistic healers, but holistic warriors. We're in a battle. We're in a battle over our own health and healing, to safeguard and protect that, and that of our families and friends and community, of course, as well. And we're also in a battle against very powerful people who, because of profits, like to suppress holistic health and healing truths to keep us just sick enough so that we need something, pharmaceuticals, but not well enough to ever get off them. That is truly the goal of big pharma, of the pharmaceutical industry. It's not true. They don't want to heal us. They don't want to cure us. They want to keep us just sick enough so that we keep giving them our money. And you know what? Me personally, I have better things to spend with my money, like on good food, clean herbs, things that don't cause these ridiculous side effects that we experience with pharmaceutical drugs.
Thank you, Mayim. So that brings me to my next question. What are some of the key benefits of transitioning from the conventional healing approach to a holistic approach in health and healing?
Okay, so that's another really great and important question. The key benefits of transitioning from conventional healing to a holistic approach are, right now, I can think of three main reasons. Number one, the holistic approach is safer. Number two, the holistic approach is more effective. And number three, the holistic approach is the true approach that gets to the root cause. Okay. Now, I'd like to illustrate the first point, the safety of holistic medicine. If someone who was taking some, let's say blood pressure medication or something like that, visited me at my house, let's say I invited them over for dinner, and let's say they had to take some of their medicine and they dropped one of their pills, right, in my dining room or in my living room floor. Now, I have very small children. I have a 4-year-old. And what if my 4-year-old found that pill on the floor and thought it was candy or something like that and put it in her mouth and ate it? What would happen? I would immediately have to call the poison control center to get that pill out of her system, because those pills can have deadly side effects. But what if someone dropped a vitamin C pill or a tincture, you know, um, you know, and one of my children found it? For the most part, if they found it and took it, they might have a little diarrhea. It might be really spicy on their tongue, and so they would stop taking it. But no, I wouldn't have to control the poison control center, because vitamins and herbs and minerals are extremely, like 1,000 times safer than pharmaceutical drugs. There's a few types of, supplements that you might have to call the poison control center, but for the most part, no, you won't have to do that, because our body knows how to work with those substances. It is not a drug. It is a healing tool. Okay. So completely safe. Also, exercise, diet, those are all safe, right? Sleep, those are all part of holistic health and healing. Completely safe, zero side effects. Now, let's talk about the effectiveness. The holistic approach is more effective. And the reason why we know this is because in my practice, and this is the experience of many holistic healers, when it comes to the conventional ways with the pharmaceutical drugs, as I said before, they don't deal with the root cause. They just mask symptoms. So, you might take a cough suppressant, let's say, for example, but if you are not dealing with the root cause, why are you coughing in the first place? Why do you have allergies? Why do you have the flu, etc.? Why is your immune system not strong enough to overcome this in just a few hours or just a day or two, overnight? Why? Because you have not built up your immune system. You haven't boosted it or lived the kind of life that you need to in order to avoid those common illnesses altogether. I have one of my students is a medical doctor, and she said that she used to take anti-allergy drugs every single week because of her allergies. The allergy drugs don't boost your immune system. They just suppress it. They just oppress your allergy symptoms. But when you have allergy symptoms, it's your body talking to you and telling you, hey, I can't deal with this. I can't deal with this thing that you're eating or this environment that you've just stepped into because of my state of being. I'm not strong enough. That's what your immune system is saying to you. But I taught her a really powerful vitamin protocol that actually boosts your immune system so that your immune system is strong enough to overcome allergies. And so that's the difference. It is effective because it is true. It is true holistic health and healing because it strengthens your immune system. It doesn't silence it, like I said before. And the third issue is the root cause. Holistic health and healing deals with the root cause, and the conventional approach of drugs and surgery, etc., does not. That doesn't mean that you sometimes don't need surgery, for example, or in an emergency situation need a drug, but you're not dealing with the root cause. And if you deal with the root cause, you can make your problems either go away or become extremely minimal, safely, effectively, and naturally, without poisoning your body and causing the roller coaster of side effects.
Mayim, you have developed an incredible program that you've already mentioned called the Arukah Holistic Healer Certification Program, which you have specifically created for those looking to either transition into the holistic approach or for those who are wanting to grow in their knowledge and practice. Can you talk us through what differentiates this program from other similar programs that are currently out there?
Thank you, Ashley. Yes, the certification program at Arukah.com is really, truly incredible. And there's a few things that set it apart, actually, many things, but I'd like to focus on a few. And one of them is that when I designed the program, I designed it for someone who was in my situation many years ago, someone who was a busy mom who had a lot of work to do and, a lot of things on her plate, but still wanted to empower herself with the knowledge of holistic health and healing for herself, for her family, so she could take care of her family, and maybe even build a career where, very specifically, she could stay at home and, just like me, be a stay-at-home mom. And, even a homeschool mom. I've been a homeschool mom. My oldest is 20 now, and I homeschooled him the whole way. And he's already graduated college, and he's got a computer science degree, and he's an entrepreneur himself. I instilled that dream in him. So being able to, I was able to surpass my income at NASA, and still homeschool my children. It's pretty awesome achievement. And so I wanted to empower people in my program to do exactly the same as I've done, to become a holistic healer, to have a successful online business so that they can have time freedom, location freedom, and financial freedom, meaning that there's no glass ceiling. No one who you need to get a raise from. You just have to help people. That's how I get paid, is when I help people, right? And so that's one of the advantages. Another advantage is it's very hands-on and apprenticeship based. And you could go to a college to study to become a naturopathic doctor, or another holistic professional like a chiropractor. But it's going to take a lot more money, and a lot more time as well. This program can be completed in 1 year, but because, all of my students pretty much are busy professionals already, or busy moms, it's self-paced. So, if you have a lot of things on your plate, it's okay. It's still going to be there for you. There's not like a time limit. You're not going to, your grade's not going to be lowered because you submit an assignment late or anything like that. It's self-paced. And so I've designed it for the busy mom, or the working woman. And another thing that sets it apart is we have three core pillars in our program. One is that our students study naturopathic herbalism. And that takes up the bulk of our program. And naturopathic herbalism includes studying the foundations of holistic health and healing, identifying toxins and detoxification, also nutrition and orthomolecular nutrition, or megadose vitamin therapy, as well as herbalism, which includes also homeopathy and aromatherapy with essential oils. And also they study Ayurveda and traditional Chinese medicine. But it's mostly focused on Western medicine, Western herbalism, excuse me. And then the next core pillar The second one is holistic life coaching. And the reason why holistic life coaching is part of the program is to incorporate the mind spirit aspect of it, right? If herbs and supplements are the alternative to pharmaceutical drugs, well, holistic life coaching is like the holistic alternative to psychiatry. It deals with the mind and the spirit, and spirit has to be part of it because we are spiritual beings. We're not just physical beings, we're also spiritual beings. Now, a lot of holistic health and healing schools are based on different religions, New Age, or other pagan religions. And this program, because I'm Jewish, is based on the Creator. It's based on the Bible and biblical principles, Judeo-Christian principles. And so, therefore, I have a lot of people who are of that faith persuasion. Jews, Christians, or people who maybe they don't really identify as Jewish or Christian, but they're open to it, or they grew up in that faith, and they don't necessarily want all the new age spirituality. They want the kind of spirituality that they are comfortable with and used to. That's another thing that sets us apart. And life coaching is all about mindset and how to have healthy relationships with yourself, with others. Of course, also, with food and your body and lifestyle. Holistic life coaching encompasses all of that. And it's a very important part of holistic health and healing, especially because stress is often the root cause of many illnesses, common illnesses, and also chronic diseases. So, that mind and spirit aspect is very important. And the third aspect is online business marketing. And again, the reason why that's important is because, as I told you, I really want my students to thrive and to be able to, have that time freedom, location freedom, and financial freedom, which an online business provides. But also because, there's not a lot of jobs for herbalists, or life coaches even. And so we really have to be entrepreneurial. And it's very, very rewarding. And because of my background, with my digital marketing business, my first business, I can really help people in that department.
Thanks so much, Mayim. So I love the power of testimony and hearing people's personal experiences or journeys. Can you share some of the success stories that might be coming to mind or testimonials from past students?
Yes, we certainly have a lot of success stories and testimonials, and we'll show some of those testimonials at the end of our talk today in this video. But I could talk about a few of them that are maybe recent. One of them is one of my students. She told me that she wanted to become a nutritionist, but I guess her life's journey didn't really allow for that. So when she heard about my program, my certification program, when it first launched, she joined, and she really wanted to help her husband, who had been suffering from colitis under the care of doctors for about 20 years, ever since he was in the military. And he was going from medication to medication and, suffering with diarrhea and insomnia and restless legs and indigestion and, all these terrible things that colitis can cause. And so I actually created a custom module for her to help her husband with that. And in 2 months, she helped her husband get off the medication and heal from colitis using food and herbs and natural holistic healing methods. So that was a great accomplishment for her. And, I get people, contacting me saying that I helped them grow their hair back, or actually someone said, "Oh, you helped save save a little girl's life," just beautiful, wonderful things like that. You helped me heal my daughter, you helped me grow, regrow my teeth so I don't have pain from cavities anymore, like just all these wonderful testimonies. And that's the reason why I love doing what I do. And and you will too, if you join the program. It's so rewarding and fulfilling to understand and to know that you are helping people, truly helping people in ways that they can't get in the modern medical system. It's so rewarding.
Incredible. Thank you so much for sharing that, Mayim. I can only imagine the sense of reward when people start applying these principles to their lives and actually see a change and transformation. And for somebody as passionate as you are around this topic, to witness that and to be a part of that, I imagine that the reward is priceless. So another common question that arises is, once someone completes the program, what are some of the practical steps one would take in order to start a successful career in holistic health?
Okay, that's a great question. And that's actually what the third pillar of our program is all about, is, what do you do? Practical steps on what you would do to start a successful career in holistic health. And in that program, we teach our students how to create a high ticket transformational health coaching program that really helps people deal with a serious problem, a serious health issue. And that doesn't mean that it's a deadly problem, but it can be something that really affects their life, right? Even skin disorders can really affect your life, right? Even though it's not necessarily deadly. Weight loss could be something that is dealing with a serious issue. There's so many different types of health coaching programs that one can make, anxiety, depression, hormonal issues, etc. So they build, and it's part of the program. They will do this while they're still in the program, and we'll support them the whole way, is to build that first high ticket health coaching program, and then set up their online assets, such as their website, their social media, a video sales letter, press releases, podcasts, all those things that online entrepreneurs need in order to connect with people, get their message of health and healing out there, and build and grow and scale their business.
Thank you so much, Mayim. It's been so great talking with you today. But before we close, for those that would like to get started on the journey to becoming an holistic healer and wanting to learn a little bit more about the certification program, how do they go about contacting you?
Yes, it's been wonderful talking to you today as well. And for all those who would like to get started on their journey to become a holistic healer and learn more about the certification program, all they need to do is visit the website, www.arukah.com, ARUKAH.com, and dig into that and schedule a discovery call. And I would love to be your mentor, your health coach, your teacher in guiding you to become a holistic healer, to become the healer of your home and your family and your community, and to help you build a profitable online health coaching business.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Mayim. So there we have it, folks. If you are ready to move forward in your own journey of becoming a holistic healer, then you can visit the website at www.arukah.com, where you can schedule your first discovery call. Thanks so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure.